The Ruga settlement plan has been signed by the president, but many Nigerians believe this is a strategy put in place to control Nigeria. And also, a court in Jigawa just sentenced some INEC officials to prison for receiving bribes in 2015. Can we say it's too late? Well, this is Plus Politics, and I am Maryann Okon. A week before President Buhari's first cabinet was dissolved in May 2019, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Okon, disclosed that the president had approved the Ruga settlement plan. Now, according to a statement released by the presidency on June 30, the implementation of Ruga settlements is to curb open grazing of animals and continue to pose, security threats to farmers and herders, and we all know how that has been so far. Now, outbursts in several parts of the country have met with the development, saying that the president plans to use the scheme to take control of the country. Now, how true is this? We're going to break this down with my guest in the studio, and I have sitting next to me Segun Sopitan. He is of ACT Network, and he's also a political analyst. It's good to have you join us, Segun.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, and we also have Tony Folorenshaw. He's a political analyst. It's good to have you join us,
Thank you.
Tony.
Good to be here.
All right, so let's look at Mr. President's plan, because he is trying as much as possible, this is what he's saying, to combat the conflict between farmers and herders, So let's start. I broke it down to, one after the other in the order of importance as to how this will help benefit Nigeria. Now, Mr. President says that this will help us to curb. I don't think it means totally outrightly end the clashes, but it will curb. Now, we also know that 11 states so far have indicated interest, even though a state like Benue, the governor has come out to debunk that they're not interested, and they never said they were interested. But number one thing is that the settlements will house herders and animals and farmers. Now, for those of us who have ever been to cattle ranches anywhere in the world, even in Nigeria, we have an idea of how this works. But why is the federal government involved in the first instance? Shego.
Well, so this is a problem that's been with us for quite a while. Mm-hmm. I dare say decades, but yes. In recent times there's been an escalation. The last, let's say, 10 years, and then it's gotten worse, apparently, over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Mm-hmm. So clearly, a response is required. And I think everybody in Nigeria has agreed that the government has been rather slow in addressing this issue over the last couple of years, and people have alluded to perhaps the possibility of the kinship between the president and these people being a reason for that
connection.
So just to set a background, it's a good thing that at least we're getting some sort of a response. Mm-hmm. So the question now is this response adequate, and has it been communicated appropriately? So for me, the challenge I've always had with this government is, more than anything else, is its communication strategy. And I've said this time and again, is that there seems to be this incompetence when it comes to getting their ideas across to Nigerians. And I think that the same thing is happening now. Well,
Mr. Okon has said, let me quote him, he said that they felt, it was important to do away with the herders-farmers conflict, and a need to settle the nomads. There will be a place that has been developed, I don't know about these places, but been developed as a settlement where they will be able to provide water. We, meaning the federal government, will provide water for their animals, pasture, schools for their children, security and agro ranges, etc. So a city in a city, if it be a city, And I'm wondering, like you have said, how many states have been developed already? Because they're thinking about it. This is just in the works. First things first, you have to deal with land. First things, and we know how land conflicts and land grabbing issues have been, an unending thing in Nigeria. Communities still clash because of land. So Is this not in somewhat making the picture, in some way making this picture blurry, because land is a serious issue in Nigeria?
All right. Maryann, if I'm to react to that, I'd like to start my own view on the point that land is an ancestral gift, so to say.
Yeah, in Nigeria.
That over the times we have communal clashes. Even here in Lagos, we had this issue of Aja and Elijah clashing over time. But however, on the Ruga issue, like he said, we have the problem of communication. Fine, it's a policy, but the direction is what I have problem with. If you ask me, what actually brought about the Ruga is the curbing of the open grazing. And of course, it's high time we realize that rearing of a cattle is like a business. You don't force other people's business down on other people's throat. Then telling us that federal government is going to be committing a large chunk of money into these projects, we need to ask ourselves a question: a taxpayer money. If you're going to do the same thing for the cattle rearers, you must do it for those that are rearing fish, poultry, those people that are the Igbos that are selling parts. We're talking about unity. We're not going to get to whatever we are clamoring to have as a nation. If at all our policy direction is faulty, we seem not to be communicating what we should communicate at appropriate time. Take it back to 2012. We had this same issue when we had the popular protest, Occupy Nigeria of 2012. The federal government felt during the Jonathan administration, first subsidy of 2012, January, basically. The federal government said, okay, we need to remove the first subsidy because we cannot continue funding the budget deficit and such like that. But the problem is that when they were implementing the policy, they didn't communicate it well. A lot of people read different meanings to it, then there is a problem. See, I must tell you, today, the struggle of Ruga, federal government has lost it totally. I will tell you. You
can't shoot it before it's even done. I mean, because I'll tell you what, the federal government has assured us, and I'm quoting them directly.
All right.
That this settlement will benefit everyone. I'll tell you what. Now, the presidential spokesperson said that Ruga settlements would put an end to the nomadic lifestyle of herdsmen in Nigeria. He said the provision of cattle markets will mark the end of herdsmen having to transport their, herds mostly by foot to avoid conflict. He said they also felt the need that if they develop these cattle markets, you don't need to transport through long distances. We'll be also bringing investors that will set up modern centers, where cattle breeders can slaughter their animals. And then with that, a lot of things would come up. This is the words of Mr. Umar.
Let me take it.
He's saying it will benefit all of us. So our sheep or our cow will not be as lean as it is right now.
Let me take it from that point.
I don't eat beef.
I was doing a kind of research when I'm asked to come and speak on this Ruga. Then I took it down to Sabo. This was how these local colonies having territory in all the parts of the country started, all the sabos that we have around now. The idea was that they brought kola nuts from the north instead of them having to travel long distance. That was how it came to be. And over the time, before now that everything seems to be down, we used to have these ethnic group fights, Hausa fighting Yoruba in all these sabos. But the problem now is that I have one problem with the federal government, and it's simple. These guys can rear their cow in the north. It's a business. In fact, it's something we can use to grow our local economy. The south, the farmers will transport.
What if they don't have enough pasture?
So I'm going there. That's the point.
Let's not forget that the weather conditions there might not be the same.
That's the argument some people are selling, and I don't buy that argument. See, it can create a kind of local economy. The south people can transport. See, you are not selling your cow for me free of charge. Whatever cow I'm buying from you, I'm going to pay for it. So if I'm buying your cow, there should be something we call exchange. So you need my grass, pay for it, then I buy your cow.
Interesting. I'm coming back to you, Shego. Now, Mr. Umar went as far as saying that the Ruga settlement will attract a lot of investments to Nigeria. It would provide at least 2,000 plus jobs. It will be a major attraction for foreigners. He also said that it will benefit everyone in animal husbandry and not just Fulani herders. And I'm wondering how many people really are into animal husbandry in this part of the world. And then he said overall benefits to the nation includes a drastic reduction in conflicts between herders and farmers. It will boost animal protection. It will reduce the number of animals you see parading our streets. He's talking about, and I tell you, I've been to Abuja before, and the only thing that was causing the traffic at a certain point was that there were so many cows.
They were crossing.
In the metropolis, in the middle of the business district. So he's saying that, look, we will not have all of that. I mean, in Port Harcourt, you would see them on the east-west road, just, you know, crossing as if it's no man's business. So if they're saying that this is what it would do, why don't we take a look at it and reason with them?
So the question, you see, the problem is that, as usual, and like I said before, and I'm saying again, the government has goofed in terms of communicating this, right? Because for me, right, this is the answer to this problem. There is no other answer. You see, this is from the time that the herder-farmer clashes escalated and became a major security issue. In the last 3-4 years, people have been saying, you know, why are cows walking all over the place? Why are cows crossing roads, you know, and all of that? And we, Nigerians, have said consistently and incessantly that put them in ranches, right? So it's kind of unfortunate that in coming up with the ranching idea, the government has messed it all up.
How do you mean the government has messed it all up? You asked for something and they're giving it to you.
Yeah, because
might not be giving it to you the way you want it, but
so
it's a solution of sorts, isn't it?
It is the solution. So it's not even like it's a solution, right? Even if you want to restrict them to the north, and I really don't see why that can be done, right? You need to put these cows in ranches. That's how modern cows are reared now. You don't. And
the federal government is saying, let's not just have these ranches in the north, because we know we have cattle rearers all over the country.
No, they've not said that.
So let's have them.
They've not said that.
In states who are interested.
Exactly.
And in 11 states have showed interest, except for Benue and some other states.
And those 11 states are all in the north. It's funny, isn't it? So I really wonder what the uproar is all about. So the first thing is,
but we can't say that Plateau and Benue are really in the north.
Well, they're not core north. They're not core north, but north central. So in terms of the regional distribution of Nigeria, they're part of the north, and we are in the south, right? And in any case, I think Nasarawa State is part of the pilot project. Benue and Taraba and which other Middle Belt state is it now? Are not. They're not, right? So the uproar, I think we've got to be careful as Nigerians not to shoot the solutions to our problems down because of politics and whatever the other interests are. Because for me right now, and that's why I'm blaming the government, because I think that they've allowed a good idea become controversial because they've not handled it well and they've not communicated it right. So the first thing that they should have done, Maryann, is first, before you even the way the information came out was kind of, it just hit us out of the blues.
Exactly.
It was just bam. You know, it was almost like in passing and all of that. They should have come out with...
how should the government, in a few words, have come up with this idea? Because you're saying it hit you, or it took all of us by surprise. Yes, it took all of us by surprise. What better ways would they have gone about it?
So it's a campaign. Now, again, I've always had a problem with the National Orientation Agency. I mean, they're doing absolutely nothing. Right.
Elections are over.
Even during the elections, what they do, right? So the National Orientation Agency should have come out with a very well-crafted, professionally designed campaign to sell the benefits of these things. One, to us as Nigerians, both in the north and in the south. In the event that any southern state is interested, they can express interest. Now, there's another angle to this that we're not even taking note of.
You know, the last time we had the NOA in the studios here, they said, they don't do these things without money. It has to be allocations. And what if they've not been empowered to do so?
That's the fault of the government, isn't it? They're an agency of the government now. So I'm blaming the government, not the NOA. I'm saying that the government is not using them right. I was
helping you redirect.
So I'm sorry. So now the issue with another point is, you know, when you are reading Umar's statement, he's made one massive assumption, and it's a joke that it will solve the herders-farmers clashes, right? Because now all the cattle and all the Fulani herdsmen will be in ranches. Who told him? Now, because you have to remember that the Fulani guys, this is a way of life for them.
Yes.
For them to stop roaming, following cows over hundreds of kilometers, there's got to be a major shift in their mindset. I'm sorry.
Right? I have been to Kenya, and I've seen the Maasais.
Good.
And their expanse of land is created for that purpose. Yes, they might not be moving from north to south, but they're able to traverse and, you know, go up and down that grazing reserve.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it really doesn't have anything to do with the mindset. If you're being given a space and that you're supposed to be confined to that space, because the moment you leave that space, you're going to cause trouble, I'm guessing they would, you know, stick to the plan.
Well, will they? So again, the other problem I have is that what exactly is the government implementing now? Are we implementing a grazing reserve?
Correct.
Are we implementing a ranch? Or is it a Ruga settlement?
Correct.
What is it?
Correct.
So you see, there's a lot of confusion in the air. My organization is actually in the process of doing a letter to the Ministry of Agriculture to say, look, we need clarification on this. What exactly is going on? Because you've heard something from the Vice President's office, you've heard another thing from the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, and you've heard another thing from the spokesman, Garba Shehu, of the President yesterday. And all three appear to be saying something similar, but they're all different.
Yes.
It takes me to the issue that I always bring up about this government. But before we talk about the miscommunication, the communication problem of this government, a lot of people are wondering why the federal government is even involved in this, because when it comes to land and allocation, it rests with the state governments. So why are the states who are feeling this problem not coming up with these ideas of Ruga settlements and coming up with, you know, strategies on how to make it work?
See, we must tell our governors, it's not everything you play party politics with or your loyalty to a government at center. See, the process of you trying to solve a conflict, you don't create another one. See, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking of that time where somebody, Aminu, from either Katsina or Jigawa would tell you to your face that we are the owner of this land. See, land is a sensitive issue in Africa, particularly Nigeria and Southwest, where I'm from. So every reasonable governor duly elected by his or her people should see this case as something that you don't play politics with. See, the problem is that these guys, the federal government, I mean, they did not engage the critical stakeholders. Public opinion is very matter whenever we are formulating a policy. I don't expect federal government to come into this. I don't expect them. This is a pure business.
But what do we want? You scream and cry that the federal government help. You say President Buhari is silent on this matter. They're not doing anything. And then the federal government comes up with an idea and we say, well, you're not supposed to be involved. Why are you here?
If I'm saying federal government should not come up, I'm not saying maybe they should just fold their hands. I'm talking about policy implementation here. See, they are putting money that is not appropriated into these projects. We all need to realize that.
Interesting. Talking about, you just hit a nerve. Now, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, had a few words on this issue of Ruga settlements. Let's take a listen, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
In each of the states, the entire land is vested in the governor. So if a governor does not give land to the federal government, it cannot establish a ranch. So Nigerians must get that very clearly. But sentiments apart, we have to be serious about this matter. Ranching is not a new development in Nigeria. It's not a new phenomenon. The Ahmadu Bello regime, for the first ranch in Nigeria, was established in Cross River State at Obudu in 1951 by the British. It was later taken over by the Eastern Regional Government. The Awolowo regime had a ranch in Okon, now Endorsed. The Ahmadu Bello regime had a ranch in Mokwa, Niger State. Under the Gowon regime, the Audu Bako regime in Kano had the best ranches in the country. But what happened was that under the military, during the long years of military rule, all the ranches in the country collapsed. That was the beginning of people taking cattle from one part of the country to the other. Those who say that, oh, we've been doing it from time immemorial, are talking rubbish. It's not our history. In fact, in the cases of the Southwest, the Obafemi Awolowo regime introduced a type of a species of cow from Argentina. So we must solve the problem, and it can only be solved scientifically. And we must learn from what is going on in Africa. Botswana, Mozambique, Kenya, Eritrea, Ethiopia have the best ranches in the continent. In fact, Botswana has a population of 1.2 million people. The cattle population is 2.8 million.
More than people.
Well, in the words of Femi Falana, talking about the issue of land, and he said something striking, that we need to solve this scientifically. What do you think he's saying?
So he's talking about the fact that ranching, you know, if you want to do a modern ranch, there's so much technology that goes into it, into building the breed of the cow, ensuring higher yield of milk, ensuring a higher yield of meat, and all of that. So that's what he's talking about. So he's saying that we need to be more scientific with the issue of ranching. Now, closing statements. Nigerians have got to calm down, right? The politicization, Islamization, Fulanization, religionization of this idea, I think is all mass hysteria. Let's calm down and look at the merits of the idea on its own. You've heard a lawyer. Nobody can take land in any state without the consent of any state governor. So there is no risk of anybody coming to colonize anybody. We've got a problem. We need to solve it. This is a potential solution. Yes, the people proposing it have not sold it well, but we can think on our own and look at it critically, objectively, and provide solutions to improve on it. And
instead of shooting it down.
Instead of just shooting it down and crying, wolf.
So I really need to comment, Femi Falana. See, talking about scientific approach, there is no how you take strategy out of it. Like he said, we need to infuse technology into this. See, Netherlands, in terms of land mass, Kaduna has higher land mass than the whole Netherlands. And the cattle in Netherlands is more than 4 million. And you cannot compare those cattle with the one we have in Nigeria. So it's not about you moving cattle from Katsina down to Ibadan or down to Anambra. No, put them somewhere, feed them well, use the technology, then we have great output from it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Segun Shopita from ACT Network, he's a political analyst, and Toyin Folorunso, political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation.
Maryann.
Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the INEC official who has been sentenced, for taking monies during and after elections. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us.